Hi, Mike here from Get Her Done, Florida. I'm going to show you a few of the things I do with my gardening as far as fertilizers and tools, and then I kind of want to go from plant to plant and show you what problems I've had and what solutions I've either tried, or maybe you have a solution. You can tell me what you think. A couple of shout outs for Jim Putnam and his wife at Ortu. They're real well informed, and they live up in North Carolina, but they cover most of the southeast. And also Wild Floridian, she's down in St. Pete, and the climate's different, but a lot of her information's excellent. So some of the things I want to say about Ace Hardware: once a year, usually in March, they have a sale, and you can get some of these fertilizers for 1/3 the price. You can also get Miracle Grow garden soil for half off. And that's a big deal. These bags cost about $14 a piece. And if you can get it for $5, you're doing pretty good. Where I'm at is north central Florida. Up here, we've had temperatures as low as 19 and as high as 95 degrees. So you get a real difference in a large span. So what do? It's zone 9A, but really what I like to do is pick plants that can go from 7 to maybe 10. Doesn't always work out that way, but if you get something that's going to be in trouble below 40 degrees, I try to stay away from it. I don't want to have to haul in a whole bunch of different plants at the end of the year, and that's how I work on it. If anything, I'll trim them, try and grow the cuttings inside, let them die off and see what happens. But let's go over a couple things that I use. And one of the first things is I take an old bottle of 409, turn it, pull it up, it comes right out. You can pour in some hydrogen peroxide, and then add some water, and then push it straight back in. Don't try and twist it in, because there's a hole that it's got to fit into. And you just push straight down. You got a free spray bottle, and always label it. Now, I'm real big on labeling because, you know, a month from now, how do you know what it is? A week from now, even. For me, a day or two. Some of the things I use are plant tone. If it's alkaline, I'll use plant tone. It's an excellent organic fertilizer. If it's acid running, I use Hollytone. And then the one I use on both is Hibiscus Gain plus Miners. This stuff's excellent. It's granular, slow release, expensive, but this is year 3, and I'm just now down to, you know, about maybe a couple more sessions of fertilizing, so it really lasts a long time. It's worth the cost. Also Milorganite. I don't have it here, it's in the back. So what I do is I'll go ahead and mix a 50% Hollytone, and then maybe 25% and 25% on the Hibiscus Gain and the Milorganite. And then I do the same thing for plant tone. I'll use the plant tone, the Hibiscus Gain, and Milorganite. Like I said, 50%, 25, 25, it's always done me good anywhere I've ever used it. That's kind of my setup. This is where I do my propagating. I always clean the table when I'm done. You know, when you're rooting stuff, if you're just putting it directly into some pots like these, I like to use a rooting hormone. Okay, usually I'll put it in a little cup because you don't want to contaminate from one plant to the next. So sprinkle some in there, wet the roots, or wet the stem, I should say, and then go ahead and just plant it. That's that. Usually if you're going to do that, I'm not going to get into it right now, but you want to take off most of the bottom, have a couple of nodes, and the bottom node I'll scratch off the first layer just to give it like a wound. And that's about that. That's what I use. That's how I propagate, and that's how I fertilize. I also write down all kinds of things that we're not going to get into right now. Let me walk over and show you a few of the tools that I use. These are your regular pruners. They're really excellent. And if I have something that just needs to be cut, and cut like a knife or scissors, this is what I use. And you clean them every single time. Same with this. You know, it's great for small plants, and you got to clean it. It's still got some sand on it. And that's basically the tools that I use. I also use a small shovel, unless it's a really big plant, because it's sharp, it's smaller, so it's not as much of a fight, especially if you're trying to get up old grass. It's impossible to get out use a heavy-duty pitchfork. Rip that stuff out. Give yourself plenty of room, because even though it's a small plant, you might start with something that's 6 inches. It might turn into a monster. So you want to have plenty of space. You also want to make sure that when you dig the hole, you dig a little deeper than what it is, so you can throw in some Miracle-Gro. Mix it with the sand, throw in a little bit of fertilizer, and then go twice the width of anything you put in. And one of the things I've run into is a lot of my plants are this big. Now they're a bush this big. Well, what are you supposed to do? Well, you got to fertilize. But I also take a few shovels of this during the spring and start distributing it from each bush, 2 to 3 shovels full, depending on how big the bush is, to freshen it up. In addition to that, I put down almost 10 cubic yards over cardboard everywhere I want to grow things. I'll go back and cut a hole in that cardboard to go ahead and plant things, and for me that's the best way to kill the grass. And then I rip out the section that I want to use, like a 3-foot section, and it's worked great. Originally I used weed block. I feel that was a mistake. It's plastic, it doesn't go away. I feel it blocks the water, so once again, with a plant this big, you might have that stuff cut out like this. Once the plant is 3 feet, 4 feet wide, 6 feet tall, 8 feet tall, you really don't want that stuff in there. Cardboard disintegrates, and that's why I use it. So let's move on to some of the plants and some of the problems I've had. One of the other things I wanted to show you is what I use to grow a plant, take care of fungicide, which is this one, and bugs. A woman in Texas called, this is Texas Gardening, showed me this, showed everybody this, Root and Grow. Root and Grow, you mix 3 tablespoons, and you can mark it, it comes with this, and I mark where it's supposed to be on a gallon, kind of green. You fill that up, and if you're planting something new, use Root and Grow. Depending on how big the plant is, it might be as much as 1/3 of this. It might be as much as this much, just for a small plant. The best stuff I've ever used. She says you can also use it on a damaged plant, something that's trying to recover. I've tried it, but you know, my thing is if it's new, throw a little of this in there, and when you're all finished, soak that plant. But this stuff works great. As far as bugs, I've been using Be Gone because I get a really bad case of white flies. I can push a bush and a cloud of white comes up. And so far it's worked. You know, I'm not real big on using bug killer. The other one is fungicide. I get a lot of leaf rust and leaf spot. This has done the trick. I've tried other brands I'm not going to get into. This one works. All right, and that's about it. I just wanted to show you some of the things I also do is I write down how much am I using. I'm real big on labeling, like I said. And I'll label this. If I get extra ones, that's great, because I'll label it for that as well as for this. This way I know consistently that I'm not just like mixing a tablespoon and having that thing lay there, trying different things on there. This gives me each one what it's supposed to be. All right, we're out here in the yard. I've done a lot of landscaping. These are Confederate Star Jasmines. When I bought them, they were that big. In fact, they were stapled down to the bottom of a box. And one of the problems I had is just spreading around, so it's a climber. What I did, and you can see it down here a little easier, is I used a tomato trellis. But I also pounded a couple of stakes and tie wired it to it because it's not going to stay up, it will fall over. And then I took a piece of conduit, 2 pieces, and connected the 3 of them so that they're all connected. If we get a hurricane, I'm sure it'll be in the neighbor's yard. So that's it with this one. It tolerates water being sprayed directly on it. Some plants don't. And it's extremely happy. I water it about twice a week. One of the things I'm going to show you is that I've got a water schedule. Not every plant's the same. Some need 3 times, some need 2, some need 1. This one can get by with 1, sometimes 2. Like we're in May and it's already hit 90, 92 degrees. So you use your own judgment on that. While we're here, these are sweet viburnum. I've got almost 40 of them. One of the problems I'm having right now is some yellowing leaves, and they're just falling off as I go. So the question for me is it the 19 degrees that we got several times at the end of the winter, or is it too much water or too little water And if anybody knows, every time you ask, what does yellowing mean? They'll say too much water, it could be too little water. I'm not sure. I'm gonna go with the damage that was caused during the winter is still have an effect, and some of the leaves are still here. That's what I'm hoping. Another thing I wanted to show you while we're at it, these were snapdragons. And if you cut the top off with a pair of scissors and have a tray or a dish, this is what you get. That's amazing. I mean, one little bud, there's probably 50, 100. So I've been saving them up. I put them in a jar into the refrigerator, and this spring I'm hoping to grow some more. So let's move on to my azaleas. These are Encore azaleas, both of them are. And I think some of the problems I'm having is that I'm not giving it enough water. Some of these were turning yellow, some look a little burnt. So I'm gonna go with, lack of water. They're new, they've only been there a few months, and they put up with the 19-degree weather. Yeah, Mike got in a hurry and started buying things in February, and then we kind of got hit pretty hard. This is a wavy leaf ligustrum. It's also called Ligustrum recurvifolia. One of the things you never want to do with this is coat it with water. If you water things, I use a wand and I get down low and soak it once a week. This doesn't need a whole lot of water. Once a week, it gets soaked, but not on the bush. It did have some leaf spot, and still does, but nowhere near what it had the first year, where it was almost all over the place. And I found that with some plants, you just cannot get them wet. So, moving on to these, this is my crepe myrtle. And for the first 2 years, I had nothing but aphids. It was so bad that I had to move it away from the house and the other bushes and put it by itself. So when they were done, their excrement's like a honeydew. And when it falls down, it gets coated with dirt and everything turns black. It almost killed 2 of my bushes. So I moved it over here, and this is year 3. I said to myself, let's do a little crepe myrtle. And I cut off the limbs. And when it comes out of the ground, I said, this time I'm letting it grow. It's gonna be a bush. And it's the first year I haven't had aphids. If it had, I'd have dug it up and out it goes. This is a yucca. It's an Adam's needle and thread yucca. It's natural. They just come up on their own. And this one looks like it's gonna have some nice flowers on it. Usually taller than me. Already it's about 5'9". So that's that. This is another sweet viburnum. This shows you the difference between the first one. Look how green it is. It's growing. It's doing great. Almost the exact same conditions. Kind of hard to say why one does so great and one does so terrible. Let's take a look at one that really doesn't do well. And that is the 2 sweet viburnums that are in front of the window. This one seems to be doing fine. They all get white flies. If you give them a push, they're there. Not as much as before. When I hit it before, a cloud of white would come up. But the problem I'm having is, if you come in and take a close look, is that I'm getting a lot of browning on the leaves. It started in the back on these 2, and now it's worked its way to the front. If you have an idea what it is, let me know. But what I think it is there's 2 windows right here. This is the south side of the house. I also have dark paint. And I feel that the amount of heat coming back on these 2 plants is what's causing it. Is it? I don't know. I have no idea. But I feel that's what the problem is. We're getting a reflection on the heat. I've gone ahead and given it more water. I've gone to almost 2 to 3 times a week. And it might be working, might not. I won't know for a little while. It's growing great, but I get this problem. If you've got an idea, let me know. These are my hydrangeas. Last year I bought them, planted them, and they slowly started dying off with a wicked case of leaf rust and leaf spot. Right now it's just starting to get it, and I don't hit these with water. But on certain days you get a lot of condensate on there in the morning, a little bit of morning dew, and it could be the cause of why it's doing that. I really don't know. But I'm working on just watering it around the base and trying to keep water off of it. And we'll see what happens. I've even got one flower coming up. I've given it some acid, so I was hoping it would come up blue, but we'll see. It looks kind of white. These guys. These are polka dot plants, and they're cute, but they're not very tolerant of the cold, so they'll be brought in this winter. And I put them, you know, they might say full sun, and usually you gotta kind of go with your gut feeling. These were drooping, not having a good time in the front. So I moved them back here on the north side where, yes, they get some sun, but there's so many trees, like this massive pine, that you're not gonna get a whole lot of sun. It's not gonna be full sun. This is a sunshine alyssum, very pretty. Turning a little bit green, so maybe it's not getting enough sun, but we'll wait and see. Pretty plant. So far it's doing great. Okay. So one more time on this sweet viburnum, and another problem that I'm having. Here you can see leaf rust. Nothing but. Lots of it. The Immunox seems to be working, and I'll show you an example later on of one that really worked. But here I'm still having a problem. I've never had much luck on the northeast corner of the house. I've already moved 12 sweet viburnum from there and 4 from here. That's 16 of them one spring. Moved them up front and they're all happy. It could be lack of sunlight. Not sure. As far as this one's concerned, this is another sweet viburnum that had a really bad case of leaf rust. And by spraying the Immunox on it once a week, or every 10 days, I've been able to save these 3. This one's doing the best of the 3. So I feel it works. I've tried other brands, they didn't work too good. Just to let you know, this is a silverberry or Elaeagnus. What a great plant this is. As it gets bigger, it could probably stop a car. They use them in Georgia in the medians to stop cars from slamming into each other. And they're doing great. They don't need a lot of water, once a week, once every other week. But they're an excellent plant, they're beautiful. They get some nice flowers in the fall that you can't see, but you can smell it. Real small brown flowers. But a very durable plant. So far, I've done well. I've got probably 7 of them, and all of them are doing really well. These are Podocarpus. Podocarpus are a square, you pretty much can square them up, and they're excellent for hiding air conditioners and other things you don't want people to see in your house. So I've grown these 2. I moved them originally, they were in the front of the house. I didn't want them there, and they've done excellent. They don't need a ton of water. It's in kind of a good spot to get the west sun, but not the east morning sun. So they've done well. If you want to hide something, they're pretty good at it. This is only 2.5 years. These are Loropetalums, and they're called ruby red. They have beautiful pink tassel-like flowers, and they're supposed to be purple, like this. The outside leaves should be a dark purple, and then the interior should be green. In the first year, this one tried its best to die, but it didn't. The other 2 did pretty well. All of them are still showing a lot of green, but you know, they've been in there about a year. So if it's true what they say about plants, first year sleep, second year's creep, third year's leap, next year they should really go wild. We'll see, but I've had problems. Leaves dropping off, okay, and the discoloring. If you like what you saw, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time on Get Her Done FLA.